Welcome back to the Into Extreme Masters Cologne 2015. We are in the second day and we're already well underway. We had our first game and fnatic came out swinging. They took that win. Now the question is, can they continue that? And QG, let's talk about QG a little bit. Like, they brushed up their picks and bans. You guys were like, okay, we saw some improvement. Was happy to see that. Do we have any hope for them in game 2 though?
It's like they fixed some of the issues we saw yesterday, as you mentioned, the pick and ban. And then something that kind of fell away, what I thought was the best part about QG against Dignitas, was their way of understanding their win condition, the way they played around the Twitch, waited until they had the void side power spike. I feel like they should just take a step back and just analyze their win conditions and play it more carefully, because those face checks loses you the games eventually.
I mean, do you think maybe, just playing devil's advocate here a little bit, it's because they fixed their picks and bans and now they don't know how to play those picks? I'm just saying, maybe that one day change, it just wasn't enough time for them to figure that out. On the other side, though, also something we noted while we were watching the games is also credit to Reckless, of course, is that his positioning was on point. I mean, those ultimates from his Misfortune were hitting, more than 2 people, more than 3 people, almost every single time, and helping win those team fights and clean up.
Yeah, pretty much. But I also thought that what Gamsu did at level 1 was like super smart. It's like we call it the LMQ special, because back in the days, LMQ was like the one team that did the strat in like North American LCS, where you just have your player hide in the brush and you just soak experience. It's like the most important thing about lane. It's not about gold, just getting your top lane experience. And if you compare it to what they did actually, just TNT got caught out and died, and then you got such a huge advantage where you could just play off like the entire game pretty much off. And I think what happened there, that he hit like in the brush and got the experience, got the kill, it set like the pace of the first 15 minutes where fnatic could just set up something where they can just rotate and snowball the game.
Okay. Well, normally on the analyst desk or the expert desk, we always just kind of praise whatever we see well, and of course everyone's really happy and excited about fnatic right now, but I want to pose a question that maybe you guys don't have answers for, but still interesting to talk about is, what would you say are maybe some weaknesses that we saw from fnatic then, from game 1? Because sure, they won, but it definitely wasn't a perfect game.
I feel like on paper, like on paper as a team, what they're doing in-game, I think it has been better than any team in this tournament. How they transition the pressure around the map, move around, rotate, I felt this was glorious. The one thing I disliked was, of course, the Nidalee, because I feel like whenever a game is at even footing, Nidalee is always going to be the jungler that loses. But of course, when Nidalee gets ahead and gets these kills, she looks wonderful and makes us look, makes us look dumb. But in reality, it's like, I don't even feel like the difference in pick and ban matters simply because fnatic is just the stronger team on paper.
Yep. So it's a little bit harder to really tell what else they might be lacking if they're going that ahead. Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of harping on Nidalee so far for a day and a half, and we've yet to really been proven otherwise. At least it's showing up. Sure, Nidalee has some losses yesterday, but again, it was still like chalked up to other excuses.
Just change our minds. Nidalee is OP. She's winning all games.
All right, are we just going to give in? Nidalee winning. Everyone should play Nidalee. Go grind Nidalee on solo queue. Everyone should be playing her.
In general, fnatic, Chaogu, much like their previous reputation, made some mistakes in the early game. fnatic, they put them to the sword, and for a new lineup to do that, again, we talked about H2K as a new lineup yesterday. fnatic deserve to be talked about in the same breath. To be able to put them to the sword strategically like they did, it's impressive. It's a great first start, and you have to be optimistic as a fnatic fan.
All right, well, here we go. Picks and bans for game 2, and that Bard coming out once again from the QG Reapers. They don't want to see Noxic on that Bard.
The 2 support, I haven't seen it in a long time where 2 supports are banned. Like,
Noxic's definitely filling in the shoes of Yellowstar just fine. So
yeah, you have like Spirit on the team, you have Faberven, Reckless, and your new player just gets 2 supports banned. They're support bans. It's pretty interesting.
Just for you, Dexter, first pick Nidalee coming out.
First pick Nidalee, the Swift special.
Yeah, got to get it in there.
Of course,
Lulu, Lissandra, standard bans probably.
Yeah. Fnatic's going to last ban Gangplank as well. The question now is Fnatic, are they going to bust out the Rise? I feel like that is what was the true power behind QG's drafting that in the first rotation. Something that is open now and won't be like, wasn't open in the previous game is, of course, the Trundle. That is something I think Fnatic might play.
We see the Gangplank ban on the blue side. I'm not sure if I like that, because Gangplank can solo carry games.
I mean, honestly, it feels like QG have some gaps in their champion pool. We saw yesterday, didn't seem to be interested in the Trundle, didn't seem necessarily to be familiar at playing against the Trundle. So Gangplank's been around a while, but still banning on blue suggests that they don't play it.
Yeah, so, I mean, it is a little shocking.
Yeah. But what does Fnatic do right now? It's like, they probably get the Trundle in the first rotation because, okay, they're banned. All right.
Interesting.
Never mind.
Well, a lot of options still left open. The Mundo's open now
Mundo
this
is
time
open,
around.
of course. Maybe we will see him.
Mundo,
but
Ryze.
Ryze is probably like the best first pick here. I would still pick Ryze because you have both junglers, Kindred and Nidalee. Even if I don't like Nidalee, but whatever. Yeah, Ryze is like an obvious first pick here, I think, in my eyes. What do you think?
I think Ryze is such a powerhouse. It's like the tournament hasn't really painted the picture of how powerful Ryze is.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest reason why you should pick Ryze first pick on blue side is so the enemy team doesn't get it for the flexibility for the last pick, so you can get a better matchup for mid and top.
Okay, but then how scared do you think QG is of maybe giving Kindred over to Spirit? I mean, do you think they're a little bit concerned that they have to give Swift a little bit of a boost there?
I mean, you have to
What?
remember that Fiora's first picked, so we'll have to spend time. But just the Nidalee, Spirit has played 15 solo queue games on Nidalee already since he got here. He's clearly got his mechanics practice, so they weren't interested in banning Lap. Obviously, they've done some research to take out Bard and Alistair, but they haven't been worried about the Nidalee. And what do you guys take on Fiora picked first?
It's like with the pool of champions that is open, it's like I've liked the blind pick Fiora in the past when Malphite has been out of the picture, Ryze has been out of the picture, but those are open now. It feels like Fiora, if they picked the last game into the Sion, it would have made sense because the split push would be there and it actually had some kind of idea behind it. But now I feel like all the good champions in Fiora are open.
Yeah, I mean, let alone going blind, but taking that as the first pick, we're not seeing anything from the opponent team, and to an extent, does it feel like perhaps QG just really don't know? Like, sure, they're trying to fix and adapt to the meta and whatnot, but they're still kind of leaving the ball in Fnatic's court and being like, you tell us what's going to be left open. You take the ones that you think are stronger, and then we'll adapt to that, is the sense that I'm getting here from the QG Reapers.
And in any types of drafting, you're picking a champion which is binary. It's going top. I mean, you could play Fiora mid, but it's going to go top realistically. So you're committing to a non-flex pick when both Mundo and Ryze are available. It's a champion that has a lot of good matchups that certainly shined in previous metas, but it's kind of maybe the strongest of the carry top laners available. It's just a really peculiar first pick.
It's like the big issue with this is the fact that the nature of the pick and ban that you want to aim for is the fact that you want to leave the top lane for the last rotation on blue side, so the enemy side can't last rotate mid, because in the current setting, Fnatic can pick their top lane in the second rotation, and then they can squeeze in the Kassadin for an obvious counter pick to what QG has brought up in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, we see the Mundo probably being locked in. I think Mundo is pretty decent, and I really like Kalista. Okay, never mind. I was just like, for a second, I was like,
I'm down there.
Kalista is the one pick that is really good against Nidalee, simply because of the ultimate. If the support knows what he's doing, you can catch out Nidalee out of position so easily and can follow up on that. That's why I think Kalista is one of the better picks against Nidalee too. And Kalista, we haven't seen her at all at this tournament because it was all about Misfortune and Lucian so far, and a bit of Jinx and Twitch. But overall, yeah. I mean, do you like what QG has, like the 3 first picks here?
Well, I completely disagree with the Fiora. That is my case. It's just you should leave top lane unless you flex it with the Ryze for the last rotation on blue side, because right now Fnatic are leaving mid lane as the last pick, and that leaves a lot of room for something like a Kassadin, and that is going to do a lot of damage on Doinby mid.
Worthwhile point, though. Have they left their mid lane for last pick? Because Morgana mid certainly could be a consideration. You look on the other side, it's not like there's a lot of CC. I guess it's fine against Braum, but it's not like it's demanding the Morgana as a comp pick. So we've been speculating off air about Morgana, and specifically her synergy with the Frost Queen's claim, the massively powerful support item that's still viable in mid. So a flex pick even there coming through from Fnatic.
Indeed, indeed. And
I actually like the Sign. I think Sign, like we talked about it a lot off broadcast, but I think Sign is really good actually.
And I mean, Gamsu played very well the first game, so there's
he did,
no
like,
reason
a really
to
good
really
job
fix
of,
it.
zoning out people. I mean, obviously it helped that he had like 3 kills, but I want to see how he does like in a more like even setting.
Right. Yeah, and
not
I think,
having that handed to him basically.
I think Fnatic also kind of curious to see how well it's going to work out in another game. And it worked out fine game 1. Let's try it again. If we can pull out the same results, then that's something we're going to stick with in the future. We'll have to wait as that comes out. QG have finished their lineup, and I mean, in the last couple picks, I mean, nothing too shocking, right? Other than, again, starting off with that Fiora.
It's very, very similar to the same win conditions we saw in the previous game. They will want to play the 1-4 with the Victor basically clearing waves, and they're going to rely on the split push of V eventually, because eventually he's going to beat the Sion simply because of her true damage and her passive.
All right, well, so we'll see if V can really pull that off for QG. But meanwhile, Fnatic, the big question right now is at Morgana going in mid for Febiven.
What about LeBlanc here, maybe?
I think LeBlanc, Kassadin are both good.
Kassadin would be really good here.
Kassadin would be
Kassadin with
pretty
CP
insane.
could be like a really good answer maybe to like the setup. We've seen how well he does in split push settings.
All right. Fnatic still taking their time. And
Orianna.
okay. Orianna, of course, always a classic, always a reliable champion. You can't really complain too much whenever an Orianna shows up, but it's going to be an Azir. Now, we talked earlier, of course, about Febiven performing quite a bit on Azir. What do you guys think of that? Does that really change your opinion on the comp?
In my opinion, I feel like Azir is really, really strong into Victor. It's like the match is like 49%, 51%. But the range disadvantage that Victor has is going to let Azir get that poke in and sometimes get pressure in mid. But we were talking about the 1-4, right? With the Azir pick now, Fnatic have a stronger 4. They can push, they can siege with the Morgana, poke with the Nidalee, and eventually the goal will be to find the opening for Sion to TP in and fight, while QG just simply want to split push with the Fiora and delay the fight as much as possible.
All right, so once again, all eyes on QG on whether they can make their win condition come true, whether they can stick with their plan. Meanwhile, in Fnatic, can they break that up once again in game number 2? We'll find out when we come back in game 2 if Fnatic can win 2-0 or if QG are going to take us to a third game.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters Season 10 here in Cologne, Germany. Fnatic are 1 game up right now over the Xiaogu Reapers in this semi-final matchup in Frosker. And Xiaogu looked improved, but were they improved enough?
I think more importantly, Fnatic was just beating them at pretty much every aspect of the game, including the draft phase, kind of back-to-back. It was improved, but still a delayed start, not only in how they're managing and working their way through these games, not finding that early game power, but still hanging on to picks that are about 3 months old. Finding that Victor again is Doinby's trying to cling to that.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit odd that no matter what, he's going back to this time and time again. He'll be up against Febiven's Azir, though, and that is definitely going to be a tough test for him.
Cool stat for Febiven's Azir. I mean, obviously, if you look at the win rates for Fnatic across the board, just because they were undefeated last season, everything has a 100% win rate. I believe his Azir only has either 1 or 2 losses against it. He's played it quite a few times. So, I mean, obviously, Febiven, well-known mid laner, very powerful. One of his most played champions was actually Victor, but his Azir's up there, and it's pretty legendary.
Yeah, it's almost an understatement if there can be one. Now, QG are stacking pretty thickly on the bottom side here as Fnatic are assuming the much more familiar 5-point position to start this one off. But QG definitely are up to something a little bit early. They know that they were spotted or they could be spotted going upriver, so they decide to just go a little bit more normal. Question is, do they go for the standard lanes here or do they try to attempt a swap? Because TCT and TNT are heading up top with V.
And last game, TNT and TCT really fumbled the swap. I mean, it was those initial first 10 minutes that allowed Fnatic to just take complete control of the game. Excellently played by Gamsu, fantastically played by Noxiac. Chaogu, they're not known as a team who lane swaps. In fact, if they're known for anything, it's how notoriously bad their lane swap is. But it looks like they're going to initiate it again.
One way to get practice is to just do, and do again. This will not be spotted out by Fnatic, and it will be a 2v1 lane to start these things off. The lanes crash together, and DoNB and Febiven are up against each other, but other than that, it's a pretty normal start to this game.
I'm curious if they're trying to prioritize a fast push there, just because they've picked 2 AD carries that are very good at that. We do see that TNT is grabbing the aggro from the creep, so that means that they should start targeting one single creep and push a little bit faster towards him so he has more control of the wave. See if he actually did that correctly. I didn't quite catch the back half of it. But
going for the freeze.
Tristana, Jinx, both of these, I mean, obviously, you can't fast push from this. You're just building up a wave and you can push it back, but you just have more control. Both of them are good at pushing down the creep waves. We saw them try to do like a 4-0 collapse the first game. This time around, we do see that they started on the bottom side of the map, which means that Swift and V will be on the top side of the map. So as this wave builds up, we'll see if they again transition over to try to take down that tower and burn it quickly.
Will be the thing to see indeed. One double jungling to start things off, so we're in for another tower pushing base start instead of a little bit more of an aggressive start that we were expected to see from QG, to be honest.
We don't know quite yet. It will really be told as soon as Swift and V, if they cross this river here, if they're going to go ahead and back and reset their positioning as the vertical jungle continues. Except, it's not
I mean, there's
jungling.
connection in the mid. I mean, they're definitely going to try to 1v1 each other. A little bit more than love tabs there, but DoNB takes the worst end of it. Biscuits being eaten across the board.
Do you see TCT, formerly known as LMQ Moore, stepping forward, trying to spot out which side of the jungle Spirit started on, but Rekkles has gone ahead and built a massive wave into that bottom side, so it looks like it is going to be that fast push. Again, you freeze the wave, you make sure the minion pushes the wave back. It allows you to build up 3 waves to have your cannon creep there, and you make sure that these waves hit the tower at the same time.
So Fnatic's a little bit quicker on the board here. Swift is actually taking his time to get down here, although Spirit is actually doing the Krugs of QG. So they are both going to be able to take this at roughly the same moment, and you know that means we have a pretty even start to this game as opposed to the few mistakes that QG made that led Fnatic to an early lead in the last game.
So far, it's a little bit slower. We'll see if Chaogu are able to survive the early game or if Disaster will strike again. Spirit actually posturing in this mid lane and chunking DoNB very hard. And without that teleport, he's going to get punished here. He's going to lose a lot of EXP as Fevin's going to push that wave in.
This is interesting, though. While they finally finished the turret as they sent a few members back prematurely, QG continued to press this. The second tower is very weak compared to where it has been. They won't be able to finish it off here, but they can get it down to half health before Rekkles and Noxiac can arrive. They actually might continue to go for this. Rekkles is here, but still, it is incredibly low, and they have a Tristana.
It would be massive if they were able to get that tower down, but good response from Fnatic, and time does keep it up. It's so important. Again, the inner turrets are the weakest they've ever been at League of Legends at this point. They do get stacking armor over time, but it isn't until 27 minutes that these inner towers are kind of back up to strength that we saw in the last patch.
A lot of chase here for Fnatic. Noxiac will get slowed down by the briefcase. It's all business for QG.
Something that I also want to point out is the fact that Gamsu got all of the experience from taking down the tower. You saw that Rekkles and Noxiac backed off to let him take that one down to the bottom lane, whereas Chaogu on the other side split the experience across multiple members because they took it as 3.
Yeah, and why not, right? After what he was able to do last game with a couple of early kills, why not give him the experience, give him the levels and the chance to push himself even further? Oh, that is going to be a fight over the Gromp, but it will be QG winning it. Spirit has his blue buff. He's going to be able to chuck those spears even faster. Febiven's now coming to join the crew. Swift is in some trouble here. Under this tower, TCT's jumping over to Spirit. Doesn't get enough of a hit on him to stop it, but TCT's in so much trouble right now. It's V they're aiming for, however. Febiven coming in around the side. They are backed away, and TCT will flash the decimating smash, and everyone gets away safe.
Febiven has the roam, but he doesn't have the mana to make that stick for a kill. They do force QG Reapers off of their tower, which means Fnatic should be able to pick this one up depending on the size of their wave. And in return, QG only gets some experience and gold onto their AD carry, so not much of a trade in terms of your map control or your global gold.
Well, not to mention, Rekkles is once again ahead of TNT, so right now it's not looking the greatest for the start of the QG's bot lane, but you know, there's still plenty of time on the board, and there's still, even though a bit behind in gold, QG are holding out strong and not losing too many members. Not losing any, to be exact.
Fnatic, I feel, are just making slightly better choices as their reactions around the map. We'll see where Xiaogu go from here, or if everything's going to kind of stall out. Again, with the wave so far forward, it is a little bit dangerous for TNT to be that far up.
Yeah, the farm differential is actually translating into a pretty sizable gold difference. It's only 6 minutes in, but when you've got, close to 1,000 gold in the lead, I mean, Fnatic is really doing well to start this one off, optimizing.
For sure, you already see the initial items coming out for Reckless there. He's looking for that Essence Reaver, has the CDR available to him instead of having the BF sword, and that's really just the timings of his backs.
UNB going pretty far forward. He will throw down that Chaos Storm. We know he loves to make the plays first, but he could be in trouble. Here comes Noxiac. Emperor's Divide will not land where it needed to, and Febiven's burning, but not enough to go down.
Unfortunately for Febiven, like you said, the Emperor's Divide just doesn't quite connect there on the appropriate target, but luckily for him, Noxiac made the roam from the top side in the mid lane and make sure that Doinb can't find the 1v1 kill.
It's a rare miss out of Febiven, to be honest. V's going to teleport down to the bottom with TNT to try and take down this tower. With the help of TCT as well, pulling the minions in. This should be another tower picked up by QG, but Fnatic are hot on their heels in the top side. Reckless solo taking this one, and he's going to be able to even it right up.
I mean,
it continues.
Effectively, by trading your teleport, you knew that you were going to trade the tier 1 towers on the opposite side of the map. So my question is, will QG now look towards the dragon? But the answer is no. Why take your top laner there to just give up the just to trade towers, but then not take another objective on top of it?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be dangerous because they had no idea where Spirit was, but just, a little bit strange.
Decision making. Speaking of which, Fnatic going for the Rift Herald here. Spirit's a little bit low, but he does manage to get himself healed up, and he does take care of it on the last hit, so he will have the mini Baron buff available to him as he goes right back to his own jungle after the fact. Sending the gold lead for Fnatic here. It's going to be hard for TNT to really find a little bit more farm as the waves are kind of pushing away from him at the moment. They're going to have to wait for this one on the top to start going their way, or they're going to have to push out to dangerous territory where there are a few Fnatic wards that could spot them out.
And that's really the concern, is how far forward do you want to go into these elongated lanes. Now, naturally, Tristana will have a bit of safety there just because she has her rocket jump. Likewise, TCT will have some displacement of his own with his stand behind me. So you see them sticking together, pushing together, but Reckless, zero fear. This is level 6 versus V's level 5. And again, we saw the experience split as QG Reapers split their resources, taking down those towers, and Fiora has been punished for it.
It's not a good start to the game when Misfortune is chasing Fiora away.
Get off my lawn.
Gamsu hanging out in the brush. We know he likes to do this. Let's see what Swift and TCT can get done with the help of TNT, looking to push on this inner turret as so low as it is, but the decimating smash will be enough. It lands. TNT's in a whole lot of trouble, but Swift was there with the briefcase to save him.
And even more importantly, Swift is there with the Baron buff, so it pretty much completely denies the play that QG Reapers have set up for the last 45 seconds. Again, now look down towards the bottom lane, Reckless forcing an entire wave into V, picking up more solo EXP and farm. This is level 7 to level 5. He sees that the QG Reapers have backed off into Fog of War, so he's just being cautious, pulling back to his own warding vision simply because he just doesn't see them. But if they were continuing to be spotted out on the map, you better believe that he's contesting that Fiora at this point.
Fnatic look to get a little bit more vision coverage of their own inside of the QG jungle. Look to set up for Dragon, but they want the kills first. In comes Noxiac. That's a flash from DoinB, but the bullet time will get interrupted. Reckless taking a lot more damage than he bargained for, and Fnatic will be able to back away after QG interrupted what could have been a fantastic fight for them.
A lot of ultimates burned, however. 3 for pretty much 2 there on Fnatic's side. Excuse me, 1.
It's a good trade for the Reapers. 10 minutes on the board, and still about 1,000 in the lead for Fnatic. They are not pushing their gold lead any farther than that. However, they do have the control of the side waves at the moment. QG, once again, we know they love to stick together, play together. If you see one alone, it's probably not really the case.
It's probably a trap.
You can just assume. They do have the vision set up to be able to take this dragon, and we know they're prioritizing it higher than some other teams in this tournament, but they need to be able to take the kills first. TCT will flash after he throws down his Unbreakable. Febiven leaps the wall, but he is going to get exhausted and ignited, looking for DoinB still. Emperor's Divide will knock him back into Reckless and Spirit, and that's going to be first blood. Past 10 minutes on the clock, it's DoinB that will fall, but only after Febiven.
I mean, that was best case scenario right there. Great plays from either side at tiny little things. The fact that Doinby trapped Febivin there in the 1v1 on the corner, but Febivin making a great Emperor's Divide, but the fight continues. Teleport coming down.
Comes right on in. Another teleport. There's the knockback. Buster shot on Reckless, but Gamsu instantly gets the stun on TNT. He's almost out of this fight. Has to back away. Spirit's going down. Nice stun with the Braum, and they look for Noxiac now. Swift puts his ultimate on, and Fnatic will be backing away.
Is that perhaps some of those communication issues coming forward? The fact that Spirit decides to go deep, but no one has the tower aggro. It looked like it might be a decent engage from Gamsu having his ultimate, maybe being able to burst them, but Spirit goes a little bit too deep, and Fnatic are punished on over-aggression.
Absolutely. I mean, they're definitely going to need to work on locking those things up before they can look to be a part of the world's elite. I still got him.
He's tapping my desk. He's like, I got a pun. Put me in, coach.
I got it. I can do it every now and again. But Febivin, he might be the one going down the Chaos Storm. No, he will shift to Sands and shift himself out of harm's way. But DoomB will just smash that Chaos Storm down so quickly.
He's being so aggressive. Now, look at QG Reaper's map right now and how they've lit up their flanks with so much vision. And that's allowing him to be that aggressive, to step forward and to lay down that Chaos Storm at pretty much every conceivable option. I really like the Victor into Azir matchup simply because Azir's Emperor's Divide doesn't really mean much in terms of denying Victor's damage just because he can place it, drop it over the side of a wall anyway. But it's really the vision control from QG Reapers that's giving Doinby this type of confidence.
And it's worth noting, too, that this Victor was picked blind. Febivin said, I can take that on. And right now, he's having a bit of trouble. Yeah, he's leading in CS, but he had that death as well, and giving it over to DoomB meant the gold differential. So, 2-1 on the score. It has been a much more tame game from that aspect. These two teams definitely cognitively figuring each other out as the series continues, but QG looking a lot stronger than they were about this time last game.
See if they can keep it up right now as Fnatic do find a superior posture in the mid lane, and that's going to be a free tower and 0 response from the QG Reapers right there. Free gold, free objective control.
This is why teams aren't prioritizing this dragon anymore. You have to take a lot of damage to get it. You have to go back, and then you have no one to defend the mid. Fnatic takes advantage of the situation, grabs themselves the last outer turret remaining, and they can push forward in this war of attrition. 13 minutes on the clock. Spirit will actually be looking to take out QG's red buff and does it.
And if you just look at the map pretty much across the bottom in the mid lane, Fnatic have so much pressure forward. Doesn't look like they're going to continue to apply that onto the bottom lane as we see Spirit backing off. Likewise, Noxiac kind of shadowing above Reckless, giving him a little bit of flanking vision. Yeah. The standing ward.
A little bit late on the Black Shield, but that's okay. Some time to work out the kinks together. Spirit will also take his own red buff. He's grabbing everything in this jungle. And definitely farming out better.
Yeah, he certainly opened up quite a CS discrepancy, 45 to 65, and that really counts in that jungle there.
QG really aren't being that proactive at trying to push the lanes right now. They're letting the waves push and then backing away, not wanting to overextend, and that gives Fnatic an opportunity to start pushing back on this, to start getting this deep vision. This is how Fnatic wins these games, and they're letting him do it.
I completely agree, but at the same time, I also understand, what the idea is for QG Reaper's composition, the fact that they have very farm-dependent champions. You've got hyperscaling ability from Tristana, from Fiora. Mundo really needs his core itemization, so he just becomes that unkillable wall. So they have champions that will do well with an elongated game to allow them to stack this up, whereas Fnatic are strong right now, or will be as soon as Reckless completes his Essence Reaper.
Yeah, and QG have to know that too. They're not going to try to take any unnecessary fights, which seems a bit of an odd phrase coming for a team such as the QG Reapers. But whereas we hit closer to the 15-minute mark on the board, Fnatic are definitely considering this Rift Herald yet again, and it shouldn't be any trouble for them to grab it. They have vision all around the jungle entries. QG are not making moves for this. Instead, they ping out for the Fnatic jungle, and there's nothing to take here but an inner turret and maybe a camp that hasn't even respawned yet.
I feel like the priority has really been Fnatic. I mean, in the first game, they had great control over dragons as well as the Rift Herald, but Fnatic seemed to, understand to prioritize the top side of the map just because, again, dragon's not worth as much as it once was because the 5th dragon win condition really shouldn't exist in the time frame of these games. QG Reapers hasn't gotten the memo. That's, twice now, back-to-back, that the Rift Herald was given away for free. First time in the first game, now again in the second game.
Yep, Swift will be able to start pushing those waves in a little harder. As it goes, Reckless is pushing up in the top versus V. Still thinks he can take him on as long as he keeps his distance. He is completely fine. Levels are evened up at the very least, so that should help out V, but he doesn't want to check into Reckless, who plays just such a safe AD carry game.
Reckless does have to be careful. He has the flanking vision, you can see that, but as soon as the QG Reapers kind of step into Fog of War where Fnatic can't spot them with their deep vision, he immediately has to pull out his pressure. Again, there is a bit of an item discrepancy here. The fact that Tristana has the completed Infinity Edge, so has the battle stat of the crit available. Reckless now probably going back to finish out his Essence Reaver will have a big power spike here.
Yeah, and for the rest of Fnatic too, they can definitely start grouping and making some big pushes.
JK, he just wanted to go back. Picked up
False
some
alarm.
biscuits.
Hey, it's coming eventually for Oscar, and you know. They sent Gamsu down on the bottom side to, continue pushing things out. He hasn't had as big of an early game impact, but to be fair, QG just haven't really given an opportunity. They haven't gone really ham this game, and you can see them adjusting their style on the fly to see how they can face off against this Fnatic squad, who are frankly a very intimidating presence, despite a very new roster.
Well, Fnatic have so much control over the map. They still have more towers by 1, but they took those towers early. They made great cross-map plays to kind of trade on objective trading, but the QG Reapers have really kind of backed up for the last 7 minutes and just been funneling farm into themselves. Probably less than 7 minutes, probably the last 5 minutes. And Fnatic just frankly haven't been pressuring hard enough, I think. But again, you do have the item discrepancy like that Infinity Edge versus sitting on the BF sword.
They are getting some deep vision, however, even if they're not pressuring the waves as well as they could be.
But you're extending the gold into the deep vision, and you're not making plays around it, except for trading the Rift Herald.
But they're denying as well. They're counter jungling, grabbing it away from Swift, making sure he can't get up to the level he wants to be. But they are feeding some of that farm right back to QG in the lanes. So yeah, it's definitely not optimal. I think they're just still trying to feel out what QG is going for this game.
The decision-making looked great in Game 1, making those really nice rotations early game, the first 15 minutes of the last game to snowball them ahead. But this game, you kind of see the strategy there. They're still applying the deep vision. They're playing very safe. They're communicating to each other, Reckless, you need to back off here. But it just doesn't look quite as decisive as you would expect it with maybe Yellow Star.
Exactly. And, it's not just him leaving that's really changed the face of this team, especially. Like, you look at what's going on with this new roster and who's really making the plays and actively throughout the series so far. It really has been Spirit a lot more. And this isn't something we saw with Reignover on Fnatic. He wasn't the standout player. He wasn't the star. It was way more about Huni and how Reignover could support him. But Gamsu has been much more of a team player-oriented style so far, and not so much I'm going to run in there and get the kills. I'm going to run in there, set up kills for my carries.
And like you said, it's really the shift from Reignover being kind of the supportive style and Huni being the carry, now Gamsu's supportive style, Spirit being the carry. Thing, though, is that Spirit's on Nidalee, and we're coming into 18 minutes of this game 1-1-0. If the analyst desk rings true, then this Nidalee shouldn't be as impactful as something like a Mundo. We saw Cloud9 really make use of that against H2K. Now, H2K did go on to win that series, but Mundo came up huge that game. Yanko said it in his interview, Mundo just outscaled me, and that could very well happen here.
Well, when you talk about an early game champion like Nidalee and a very late game champion like Mundo, the longer the game goes, it really only does go one way. Fnatic will, however, be looking for another dragon for themselves, or rather the first dragon for themselves. QG are looking to contest this one. Reckless makes it rain, and that means they will have to call it off on account of the weather. So, Swift takes a little bit more damage, but this dragon is grabbed by QG. Fnatic don't really want to fight this right now. Despite having a bit of a gold lead, I don't feel they feel confident enough to make it happen.
Well, the big thing is that Spirit just got chunked out so very hard right now, and this Nidalee's not as strong as she really should be. Instead, Fnatic get better posturing on this mid lane, and they could look to siege this up. Great zone from Reckless, and look at how much damage they just did to that inner mid tower.
We're able to chunk it down pretty low. About a quarter of its health remains, however, so QG will defend even if they were a bit delayed too, and now they're looking to get a chase on. Blue buff is being taken out by Fnatic, but they won't be able to get there in time. Making it rain, TCT in the front, trying to block it up with the Unbreakable. Spirit will secure the blue buff for himself, and Fnatic, now grouped as 5, feel they may be able to take the fight.
Despite the fact that Fnatic really aren't, trying to engage for these 5v5s, they do have the big engage potential from Gamsu and his ultimate. They're still dictating the pace of this game. They're leading QG around the map. Yes, QG managed to get the dragon, but they lost a lot of damage on their mid-tier tower, and they lost their blue buff, and now they might lose more.
They might indeed, but Febvin was the one that took the damage as he sent the Emperor's Divide. It didn't connect the way he wanted and knock people back into his team. But we talk about Fnatic leading this game and how they're getting the siege on, they're making the plays happen, but look at that, as Reckless goes even lower, he has to get out of there.
Doinby has 0 mana, there's no way they can follow this up. QG can't do anything off of that.
Yeah, they got the wave cleared though. The thing is, for QG, they may be led by the hand so far this game, but the longer it goes, they've got a lot of tools on their side come the late game. Do and B is on Victor, Swift is on Mundo, V is on Fiora. They have a Tristana in TNT. All of these champions scream, late game, we will beat you down. And Fnatic, I feel like there's a timer ticking over their heads for this one.
I mean, that said, Febvin is also on Azir, does have a fantastic late game as the QG Reapers just trying to stall out, save their mid-2 tower. They do force Fnatic off of it, but that blue buff steal coming up pretty big to bite Doinby there. Had to recall.
A lot of counter jungling going on for Spirit this game.
It was set up that early, like, we'll steal the blue buff. Doinby will have 0 mana. They won't have wave clear, and we'll take the mid-tier tower.
All plant.
It's excellent.
Yeah. They send the Tristana down bottom to clear out the massive wave that had been pushed in there by Fnatic, and that gives them an opportunity to push in here, finally take out the second tier mid. Spirit goes very low from V, but they do not have enough to take him down. The chase is on. Tristana's joined the fight. In comes TCT, but Gamsu gets himself out. Reckless, however, was on the front line, had to force his flash away. And QG will go away once again empty-handed.
And again, QG Reaper's composition really lacks a true engage tool. They're not able to catch up to Fnatic. Naturally, Morgana will have fantastic disengage. I'm really surprised it took so long into this tournament to finally see her come out. Not only because she synergizes so well with Frost Queen's Claim, which is such a potent and powerful item, but the fact that she's so easy to walk away from things. She's got good wave control, or decent wave control with her Tormented Soil. She protects the 80 carries with the Black Shield. It just makes sense. You know, she's good against Trundle. We haven't seen Trundle this game, but if we did see Trundle, I expect Morgana would be a pretty favorable matchup. You know, she's ranged, she can abuse him. She's got the Black Shield, deny a little bit of that CC, the slow.
QG, I think you hit the nail on the head with the lack of engage here. The big issue for them, we talked about it throughout the tournament. We were sitting down a little bit earlier, if you recall, talking about, oh man, they're just a little slow to start. You know, what are we going to talk about? I think a phrase that got tossed around a lot was failure to launch, and that's pretty much this game in a nutshell. They just can't catch Fnatic.
It's been this tournament in a nutshell for the QG Reapers, unfortunately.
They did get that first win off against Dignitas, but yeah, this is going to be a tough one for them. If they manage to come back, they'll still have to face a game number 3 to try and make it to the finals, but V is going to try to take out Reckless here. You don't want to be that far forward with the help of TCT. He will do it. V picks himself up, his first kill of the game to make it 3-1, while Gamsu is in the mid, gets forced back by the explosive shot of TNT. Spooky Ghost are out to slow him down, and so are the Azir minions, but V is knocked back into the tower, burns his flash immediately. Gamsu is going down, zombie mode activated. He's going in to try and take out B, who takes a javelin to the face. The Azirs are coming in. Spirit gets the pounce. Can he get another? No, because V is here. Swift is tanking up the line, but it's going to be V going down. TNT backing away, dodges away from the spear. Swift is going in, manages to get the pick on the kitty cat, and now Febvin is a little low. Burning Agony, and Noxiac's got to run away. This Mundo is just so big, and 1Q would do it. Dodges the briefcase. Down goes Noxiac.
And in the end, the QG Reapers managed to scrape ahead of that team fight. Brilliantly played by Febvin and the QG Reapers. I mean, Febvin did everything in his power to try to save that for his team. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough. We'll see if they're able to transition this into the tower. Oh no, Reckless is here, and so is the teleport.
Yep, it's going to be Gamsu coming in off the back of it, so even though it was a 3-for-2 trade for
Doesn't
QG,
mean
they
anything.
can't get an objective.
Exactly.
See it again, though.
Okay, Doinby actually does a great job with his posturing here. Not only does he dodge Gamsu's ultimate, but he dodges a lot of CC in general. Febvin putting out so much damage. We talked about how, you know, Azir is going to be a good late-game threat, especially if you just allow your Sand Soldiers to wail on him. Forces V under the tower. V, of course, made the play on the top lane, then teleports down here. And at this point, it's really the kiting potential of Doinby and TNT and just eating up so many resources that allow them to come back into this team, as well as Swift now on this big tanky Mundo. And what does Mundo do? He outscales, and this is really the, what's what I'm looking for, end result of what we expected from this composition. End result, Mundo.
Yeah.
The potato.
He's a burning potato, though. That's the thing. You can't really deal with him or stand too close to him. And, you know, imagine once,
It was-
you know, he has a decent amount of damage as well, just all things considered, because his health he can just burn through consistently.
The thing that I really want to touch on, though, is that was so Fnatic. You know, you see that 2 resources of the QG Reapers have been expended up in the top lane to kill Reckless. We need to make a play in this mid lane right now. And that's what Yamato was talking on the desk. You know, Fnatic in the isolated 1-4, even though Misfortune wasn't there, it's not the ideal situation that they wanted, they're stronger because they have the Azir. So they've looked for the engage. Now, normally, that would be with Yellow Star, you know, making those crazy Alistar plays. It looked good, but it wasn't as clean as it could have been. I saw the idea, I liked it, but good reaction from the QG Reapers to keep their foot in this game.
Yeah. Well, and to Fnatic's credit, too, you can't expect them to be on the same level of finesse that they were with that World Semifinal squad. And you know, nothing against Noxiac, he just doesn't quite have the experience to really match that mechanically.
Still looks great this series.
But yeah, he has played fantastically so far. I mean, I loved him last game. This Morgana, I don't know if it's necessarily the optimal pick, but he's definitely done work with it.
It's a very different type of playmaking, you know what I'm saying? Like, Morgana does have playmaking ability, but comparatively to Alistar, who's pretty much only playmaking, so.
Yeah, speaking of Fnatic though, they're trying to set up a play right here, waiting a couple members in the brush. They know there is no vision, but Swift is not falling for it. Even if they caught him, I don't think they'd be able to kill him.
Look at that.
Will land, but I mean, it tickles.
Dexter's probably sitting at the desk like, yes, this is it.
This is why you banned the Mundo. Yeah.
This is why Nidalee versus Mundo. Those spears just aren't doing anything, but the primal surge will, as well as the execution damage, and they turn onto the Baron, but the QG Reapers know what's up.
All they have to do is show face at this point. They're too low to be able to finish the Baron off. The Azir Soldier was trying to keep the Baron from fully resetting, but they only had to commit 3 members just to show up. There is still a wave that Fnatic has pushing in the top. They're trying to buy some time here, but all of a sudden, QG are eyeballing this mid lane, and they should be able to get it. Fnatic are out of position.
Oh, Febivin comes over the wall right there. He's not going to use the Improvised Divide. I was curious if he was going to try to force them back to buy his team time to get behind him. I think you're right. It's funny, though. The QG Reapers, they had a big problem where they kept walking kind of in blind. We saw that at the Baron where Fnatic really took full control of the game. When you have someone like Mundo, Mundo goes where he pleases. They can check blind all they want. It's the ultimate champion. It compensates for all their weaknesses. Who needs wards when you have Mundo?
It's a good sales pitch. Keep giving TNT some more farm here, though. He has managed to catch up and you know, get a little closer to where Reckless is at. And, you know, a little gold will help as well to keep this build on going. He has the QSS. Eventually looking towards the Mercurial just to make sure he doesn't get caught too hard. I mean, Spirit, if someone CCs him, oh my goodness, Noxiac, goodbye. Another Chaos Storm for DoinB, and that's his 3rd kill of the game. That guy, that is typical Chinese aggression.
That's typical DoinB. That's the DoinB special. Randomly drop Chaos Storm in the middle lane. That said, Noxiac obviously shouldn't have been that far forward.
Yeah.
Victor doesn't have his flash, though, so traded support flash for mid lane flash. Now, naturally, you picked up the kill, so that's nice to have in your back pocket, but that matters tons for Victor, who's a very low mobility champion comparatively to someone like Uzir, who has his reset.
Very true. DoinB spent a couple of summoners there. All the same, got him a little bit more gold back in his pocket. And he has been dealing very well with Febiven's Azir. Have to give him credit where credit is due. He might be sticking to his guns, but they are a couple of good guns.
Bit of a trap being set up here, although Spooky Ghost should
Spot
be
it.
available, and if that's pressed, that'll immediately reveal the QG Reapers.
Come on, Noxiac. Oh, they're safe in lane right now.
Well,
There's
he
still a
doesn't
couple of members in that brush, though.
necessarily need to use it off or defensively simply because they have great flanking vision, especially as now TCT and Swift will show themselves.
Yeah, there's a Spooky Ghost. Both connected on TCT, however. They'll be able to get back to their own safety zone. Still, V going to try to push on the top side. The question is, how is he going to deal with Gamsu here? He shouldn't be able to take him out. He hasn't really gotten fed on this Fiora right now, and the Azir tower will be taken out by QG, or getting close to it. And I continue pushing their waves forward. We've hit 29 minutes on the clock. It's definitely turning into one of those longer games, but it looked like that was going to be the case from the get-go.
I mean, the longest game that we've had for the tournament so far was that 34-minute game. Fnatic finished the last one in 33.
Yeah, could be a little bit longer this time around. But again, it's much more conservative. QG are still getting picks. They're still making plays, but they're still down on gold because Fnatic just have that objective mindset. And they have been pushing it as fast as they can, as forward as they can. I'm actually surprised these two teams have fought over the Dragons. That has been one of the things I least expected to happen after the first day of games.
Yeah, it's been a little bit curious. I mean, it doesn't surprise me from the QG Reapers just because that was their MO in the LPL, and I think it's more been indicative of Fnatic just because they've had complete control over pretty much every objective in the game, at least as far as this series has been concerned in terms of the Rift Herald as well as the Dragons. Obviously, they were bullied off more this time around, but it's getting a bit more dangerous because, again, Swift's Mundo is starting to mean so much more than Spirit's Nidalee. And team fights, unless they're set up perfectly, unless there's a pick, unless it's an elongated fight enough that, you know, Febiven's able to lay down enough sustained damage with his Sand Soldiers, things can get pretty scary very quickly.
Yeah.
we haven't really talked about kind of the composition that QG set up, but it's pretty classic to see Fiora and Tristana picked in tandem with each other. Simply because you place down the Fiora ult, you need to get the execution so you can lay down the healing AoE, and obviously that will allow Tristana to start finding her snowball and Goomba stomping around the fight. You're then laying massive AoE damage with the Venn diagram of Victor there. I like to call it the Venn diagram of murder. You got the Chaos Storm, the Gravitational Field, the Death Laser, and again, that's just layering everyone so low, Tristana continuing to jump around the fight, and that's really how that works, whereas, you know, Fnatic, they need to lay down the poke, they need to be more reliant on kind of flanking and setting up more, I think, carefully engineered team fights, whereas QG Reapers, they get a bit more freeform with it.
Yeah, talking about Tristana too on TNT, like he's gone a little bit more unconventional build, I'd say. He's not gone for the rapid fire cannon, the range extension, instead finishing out that static shift earlier. But there's still time, I suppose. Just hasn't thought it's something that he needed to take. Dragon, however, will be secured by Fnatic just barely. The laser from DoinB almost sniped it away. Fnatic are trying to bail. TNT jumps in, gets a shiv proc on this one, but they are out.
He thought about it too. He postured the wall. He's like, am I flashing over? TCT now caught out.
Yeah, we saw that happen yesterday. Didn't work out well, and Spirit goes in, gets lasagnas on. There goes the bullet time. He flashes away. A huge chunk of damage dealt to the QG Reapers, but Swift is there, and he's still Mundo. TCT will go down to Gamsu, however, who comes around the backside. Buster shot it away, but DoinB is isolated, and he's gonna get decimated. Knocked up, but Swift is there to try and save his life. QG, however, are just evaporating way too quickly. TNT will take out Reckless. Noxiac takes away with a sliver of health, but this Tristana is the real deal here. Gamsu running around. It's going to be Swift managing to take him down at the end of the day, and a 3 for 2 in favor of Fnatic, and that was a crazy fight.
There is nothing that Fnatic can do against this Mundo. Yes, they win the team fight right there, but there are so many blinking health bars scattering in every single direction. It was beautifully set up by Gamsu too. I loved the flank from behind with his, there we go, Scion from behind was just awesome. TCT way out of position. I like the turn to understand that, you know, this Braum is way too far forward. Here we go. I thought for sure Reckless's ult was going to come out a little bit earlier as well. So here we go. They catch TCT. Spirit trying to buy time with his hourglass. Here comes the bullet time. TCT does a good job kind of measuring measuring how much he can take, but Gamsu, that's what I was talking about. Coming in from behind, finding the engage. He gets right on DoinB, but DoinB survives for so long.
Well, TNT just does so much work while V's tanking up Noxiac, Spirit, and pretty much everybody else. I mean,
kind of poor target selection and follow-up on Gamsu right there. A bit of a mess of a fight. They do come out ahead. Also picked up the Dragon, so overall a win for Fnatic.
Yeah. So they got a little bit more out, but QG starting to show that their composition is the stronger one. A lot of members of QG here around this Baron pit, but they're withdrawing. That will allow Fnatic to be able to take out the Scuttle Crab and clear the vision around the Baron. This will be the very important objective for both teams. If Fnatic can secure it, they can compensate for some of their lack of scaling and start pushing down those towers. Remember, they're still leading 4-3 on that metric, but QG, if they take it, that could start to be the first nail in the coffin of Fnatic for this game.
Again, I just think the issue is Swift. He's got his Spirit Visage up and online, pretty much not taking any damage.
Well, and he's got the Dead Man's Play too. He's going to be able to run very fast at this enemy team and not care at all what they're doing. And this is Mundo in a nutshell. This is why you have to ban it. And V is still able to make his push known in the bottom side as well, while Gamsu will let out a roar to try and push them back. Not too many minions here, but Gamsu can hold this on his own if they decide to add a few more members. 3, though, of Fnatic in the middle.
I mean, that said, Gamsu's done a brilliant job holding off V for the majority of this game. It's pretty much been Fiora and Scion isolated. Now, we do have an issue where there's a TP discrepancy, so the QG Reapers are able to play around the Baron here and hold V to the side, simply because Gamsu, he has his ultimate, so if he's, you know, postured around the mid lane, he can kind of quickly get there. But from this current position and kind of this 4-1, QG Reapers have the man advantage because they have the TP advantage.
Yes, indeed. Just about 35 minutes. DoinB takes a pot shot at the Baron. Not sure what he was trying to do with that one, but he's all right.
Fnatic just trying to hold out for this cooldown so this becomes a little bit less scary of a situation, doing a great job kind of leading forward, poking. Obviously, fighting on the Baron is still relatively scary for the QG Reapers simply because Fabivin is very powerful right now. This is Azir. We talked about, you know, if there's any late game scaling for Fnatic, it is in his back pocket, and that's exactly where you want it to be. This guy is great on Azir.
Yeah, hasn't had the greatest score this game, but he's still been able to make some plays. A couple of missed ultimates, but nonetheless, definitely an all-star player. And Febivin has proved time and time again that he is, if not the strongest mid laner that we've seen in quite a while. It's not from Korea. I think you got to find me somebody better.
I'll definitely say that I think he's the strongest standout player into this tournament. Again, kind of looking at what are you expecting from everyone? What was their most recent performance like? And carrying over, you know, from Febivin's Worlds performance, you point at him and go, him. He's the all-star of the tournament. This is the guy that you want to watch. This is the guy that's picking up the crown of Fnatic. And first game he wore it well, and first part of this game he wore it well. See if he can continue and close it out 2-0.
Yeah, no, if he is calling a lot more of the shots this game alongside Reckless, you know, both known to be a little bit more quiet personalities. How much does that really add to the strain of him trying to play this game effectively? We haven't really seen any physical difference. I mean, Febivin is still Febivin no matter what. But does that add an extra level of difficulty to try and play this game, to lead this new Fnatic squad, do you think?
I mean, obviously, it's hard to say. We've had a lot of shot callers that have been mid laners in the past simply because the position has so much influence over the game.
Bjergsen comes to mind, yeah?
Exactly. High comes to mind, obviously now playing from that support position, but...
He doesn't count, he's a support now, Frost.
They looked a bit indecisive, or at least more indecisive this game than they did the first game. Naturally, they didn't get the extreme snowball that we saw earlier. So again, you can kind of see that there's room for improvement. You see the thought, but it's not as clean as it once was, as decisive as, you know, Yellow Star had it. But it doesn't look awful. They still look like a force to be reckoned with. But here we go.
Spirit goes in, goes out, but he does manage to get his Zhonya's on and dodges every single ultimate. Gamsu comes to join the fight, but DoinB is doing a lot of damage, and Febivin is blown away by the ult from TNT, but won't go down. Finally will fall after the bomb explodes. Gamsu on the retreat path with Spirit right in front of him, but Gamsu may not make it out alive. Noxiac is going to try to save the day with a black shield. That's going to force the flash though, and he goes down as well. A leap in for TNT, gets the bomb onto Reckless, but they take out the inner tower, and they can keep pushing on the mid.
Febivin tried to stall out long enough for his team to get away by forcing everyone away, but he trades his own life for it as well as the inhibitor. And at this point, this is the QG Reaper's composition speaking for itself. 37 minutes, 44 games. We said the meta is going to go quicker. There shouldn't be these elongated games. You shouldn't let the QG Reapers get to this point in the game where they are so comfortable in their 5v5, but Fnatic have failed to make decisive choices.
And they are reaping the benefits right now. The QG Reapers, meanwhile, will be grabbing themselves a win to take this one all the way to game 3. But they want some more kills on the board before they can make it happen. A double kill for the Tristana. Grab the last turret. Inhibitor goes down. 38 minutes in, we got a series.
And I feel like as soon as we kick it back over to the desk, the first thing out of Marcel's mouth is going to be Nidalee. Spirit and Swift. Second thing's going to be Mundo. Spirit and Swift, historically, I mean, this is a rivalry again that goes back to CJ Antis versus Samsung Blue. They always play Nidalee against each other, and before this moment, it had a 100% win rate when these two were head-to-head. It now finds its first loss in the hands of Spirit, and will he change it up? You have so many strong junglers on the board right now. Elise, Kindred, Mundo. Why are you giving it away for a snowball-oriented champ when there are others available?
I mean, that's the question you have to ask yourself as Fnatic right now. They had such a strong game one, such a decisive victory, and this time they tried to make some of the same plays early on. It was a much more conservative start from QG, however, and that really effectively shut it down. So Fnatic not able to get anything done in the first 10-20 minutes. Yeah, they grabbed a Rift Herald, they tried to make a few plays, but they just didn't get anything else done. And that was it.
This is the thing about the QG Reapers. They're a very one-dimensional team. They have clear-cut win conditions. Late game, team fight. That's pretty much all they're good at. Historically, they fall behind early every single time, not only in the LPL, but in this IEM tournament. Fnatic just needs to put the pressure on early. If they're going to pick Nidalee, you need to find the snowball.
Absolutely. Well, we've heard enough from us. Let's go ahead and take it away, Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much. Here we are back at the analysis desk. And first of all, of course, we do have a series on our hands. But are we going to talk about Nidalee first? Is that what's going to happen?
I think the bigger story of the game was just the outscaling team comp, where if you give Mundo enough time to scale, we see he's unkillable and he does a lot of damage. And I think Gamsu actually, Fnatic actually played the teamfight so well at the Dragon Pit, but they couldn't really do anything because they couldn't kill anyone anymore. And it was like the story of the game. Of course, you have a tank too, but Fiora is really good against tanks and could just split push the entire game without any threat. And then, of course, I think Noxiac was a bit limited probably in his ability to do something because there were 3 supports banned in this game, and overall, I think, yeah, Nidalee didn't really quite snowball the game, where later in the game she just falls off a bit and, of course, doesn't really do anything.
I feel like the strange thing for me was that I was complaining a lot about the Fiora blind pick, and they picked Sion into it.
Okay.
Sion has a really poor matchup into Fiora, and with that in mind, I felt like they could have picked something that could have done better. They could have picked the Shen, possibly a Malphite, possibly a Renekton, to kind of punish this Fiora blind pick, but instead they opted in for the Sion, and I don't think, with that in mind, past like the 20-minute mark where Fiora can split push properly, it's going to be hard to finish the game.
Okay, Papa, what about you?
I mean, to be fair, the Fiora first pick really didn't impact that game very much. Obviously, Fiora had more time split pushing, but didn't really get any objectives. The Fiora was definitely just an ancillary thing to the victory. I mean, the big takeaway for me was this game felt a lot like the game I casted yesterday, Cloud9 versus H2K Game 1, where Cloud9 were also running the Mundo jungle.
Right.
And it was kind of they were at the mercy of H2K in the early game. Just like in this particular game, fnatic were well on top early in the game. They weren't prioritizing Dragon, so they were behind in Dragon, but they were taking towers. I think the difficulty for me is, in that previous game I talked about, it was Forgiven playing Tristana, so at least they were able to push down turrets, whereas in this game, with the misfortune, okay, a very good laning champion, but, you know, for that first 20 minutes when they were well on top of this game, fnatic just couldn't translate it into the snowball lane. They couldn't break the base. They couldn't take many of the inner turrets. They got stalled out, and then once the Mundo got online, they just ran out of win conditions.
I feel like the key point why I felt like the Fiora was so important is, of course, the matchup and the split push. They could have used that more. They went for the team fights instead, sure. But there was this key point where Reckless managed to get caught up by the Fiora, and then the fluidity we saw in the first game, it was like a wrench in the cogwheel somehow. Suddenly we saw Noxia getting caught. We saw Azir being out of position in one situation, and all of a sudden, the kind of cohesiveness we saw in the first game was not there anymore. And then the communication you kind of have to question it a bit.
All right, yeah, well, we'll have to find out as we go into Game 3. Can fnatic really pull it back together? And also just how important is Mundo? Because so far, the times we've seen him, he's been pretty successful. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, it is going to be Game 3, the last map in this best of 3 between QG and fnatic.